Is it still possible to get permanent residence after studying in Canada? I know this is the billion question that is bothering lots of international students right now, and those prospective students that would like to come to study in Canada. And especially with the recent changes that have been happening in immigration, and with the current statement that the Minister for Immigration made, as well as the shift in the labor market and the desire for Canada to bring in more skilled workers, and also they want to bring in those people that are bilingual, people that can speak both English and French. So it's normal for one to think, or for you guys to think, if it is still possible to become a permanent resident after studying. Is it worth it to burn those millions of money, resources, for you to risk it to come to Canada? Is it very, very risky? I know this is the question that will be bothering you guys. Before now, it is very, very easy for students to transition from study visa into becoming a permanent resident here in Canada. But with the recent changes and the things that are happening, I will say it is very, very difficult right now if you're not strategic enough. But it's still very, very possible. All you need to do is for you to be strategic. That is all you need, because immigration plans keep changing. You need to ask yourself your current situation, and in 3 years or 2 years to come, if your situation at that time will still permit you to become a permanent resident. Election is coming up next year, and there might be a new immigration minister that might take over, and that might still lead to changes in their immigration policy. So if you want to come in as a student, as an international student, you need to really ask yourself if it is worth it to take that risk to come in as an international student with the intention of becoming a permanent resident. You need to really plan out yourself very, very well, so that you don't need to waste lots of resources, and at the end you'll not be able to transition to become a permanent resident. IRCC have made different pathways in express entry route. They have different categories which you can help you to easily come into Canada as a permanent resident. You need to explore those different pathways, and if possible, you need to learn French as well. You always need to change your plans according to how the policy changes here in Canada. Canada is welcoming people that are skilled workers. They welcome people that they need. It's not the other way around. So they don't plan their immigration based on what you need. They plan their immigration based on what the country needs. So as the policies are changing, I will advise, or I will recommend you guys to change alongside with the policies. If you have other options that you can use to come into Canada as a permanent resident, or any other route, especially as a permanent resident, I would highly recommend that, rather than you burning that resources to come to Canada as a student. Except, of course, that you just want to come into Canada as a student, and you already marked that plan, and you know that you'll be able to transition yourself from temporary resident into permanent resident. All fine and good, but I will highly recommend you guys to come in as a permanent resident if possible. I hear people asking, if you're coming in as a student, you don't need IELTS. Let me tell you guys, even though you don't need IELTS right now, when you're coming to Canada as an international student, you will eventually need IELTS when you want to apply for permanent resident. IELTS is mandatory. It is very, very compulsory that you must write it if you want to come in as a permanent resident. So if it's IELTS that is making you to want to come to Canada through the study route, just have it at the back of your mind that you will still need that IELTS, or even TEF Canada, which is the French language, for you to transition from that study route, or transition from temporary resident into permanent resident. So if that is the case, please be advised, strategize yourself. And being strategic involves you knowing the kind of course that you want to study. Don't just go and choose anyhow course because it's easy for you to study, or it's easy for you to get admission. If you're following immigration news, you already know those high in demand courses that they want as a permanent resident. So go and choose those courses. Do not choose anyhow course because it's easy for you to get admission. Secondly, you need to know the university or college that you are planning to enter. You should be DLI and PGWP eligible. And thirdly, you need to key in your age. How old will you be when you finish your school? Will your age earn you high comprehensive ranking score for you to be able to transition to become a permanent resident? And number four is find out the provinces that you can get nomination from, and if you can't get nomination from any of the provinces, ensure that your age is still very very low, so that your comprehensive ranking score will be very very high to get you that invite. And put some other strategies into place, make more research in order to know the things you need to do in order to guarantee you to become a permanent resident. That is if you still want to come into study in Canada. And be aware that labor markets always change, so it might change when you come to Canada. So that is why you need to be more adaptable. You need to have different plans in case the labor market changes. What is your next plans? So I hope I've been able to answer the question, is it still possible to become a permanent resident after your studies? Yes, it is very very possible, but then you need to be very strategic. And if you have other options, explore those options that you can use to come in as a permanent resident. All the best, guys. See you guys in my next video.